When graphing a secant function, it's usually appropriate to graph one period. This means that you first need to find the period of the function and then find 3 consecutive vertical asymptotes. Then draw the curve that represents secant. So we're going to graph each secant function, and again we're going to just do one period. So we have y equals -3 secant x, which is in the form of y equals a secant kx. So here k is equal to 1, because that's the number immediately in front of x. And with here we can find the period, and the period is 2 pi over k. So with k being 1, our period is 2 pi. Now we need to find the asymptotes to graph secant. So normally a secant function that hasn't been shifted left or right will have a vertical asymptote at x equals pi over 2. And this one will have that vertical asymptote as well. But since we have a period of 2 pi, we're going to go from this vertical asymptote up 1 pi and down 1 pi to get the other two asymptotes. So we're going to do x equals pi over 2 minus pi, then x equals pi over 2 plus pi, which will give us here negative pi over 2, and here will give us 3 pi over 2. So now we have our 3 vertical asymptotes, so making the graph for secant will be a little bit easier. So put this in here, and I'm going to plot my asymptotes. So I'm going to have negative pi over 2 first. So there's one asymptote. Then I'm going to do pi over 2 here. And then I'm going to do, this is good enough, 3 pi over 2 here. So there are my asymptotes. Now we need to go back and graph it. So to do this, we need to look at a. In this case, a is -3, and the negative is very important because the negative will flip it or reflect it along the x-axis. So normally, secant would intersect the y-axis up here, specifically at 3 because of the 3 here. But because of the negative, it's actually going to intersect the y-axis down here. So this graph is going to, instead of going down then back up, it's going to go up then back down, like so. And then we're going to graph the other one. So if this one's down here, over here the graph is going to be up here, specifically going through the point in the middle between these two asymptotes, and the point in between these two is pi and +3. So going to look like that. And so here is the graph of secant, graph for one period. Now let's do it again for this function, y equals 1/2 secant of x minus pi over 6. So this is going to be in the form of y equals a secant of k times the quantity x minus b. So this is shifted because it has a b value, so it's going to move left or right depending on what b is, but we'll get to that in a second. First things first, I'm going to get k. K in this case is the number in front of x, which is a 1, so easy. And now we're going to go for a period. And the period again is 2 pi over k, so the period is 2 pi over 1, just 2 pi. Now, we need to find the vertical asymptotes. Now, normally, like I said before, the vertical asymptote would be at pi over 2. So, x equals pi over 2, but there is a shift, and that shift here is b being pi over 6. So since it's a minus pi over 6, b is positive, so b is going to be a positive pi over 6, which means this graph is going to be shifted to the right, pi over 6. So I'm going to add pi over 6 to this asymptote, and when I do that, I'm going to get 2 pi over 3. So now that I have that asymptote, and I still know the period is 2 pi, I'm going to add pi above this and subtract pi to get below this to get my other two asymptotes. So x is going to equal 2 pi over 3 minus pi, and x is going to equal 2 pi over 3 plus pi. And so when I subtract pi, I'm going to end up getting negative pi over 3. And when I add pi to this, I'm going to get 5 pi over 3. So these are my three asymptotes. So now I'm going to graph my secant equation. And so I'm going to have right here, block that off. So negative pi over 3 for this asymptote. Then I'm going to have 2 pi over 3 for this one. And then last, I'm going to have 5 pi over 3 for this one. So there are my three asymptotes. And now I'm going to look at my a value, and a here is 1/2. So 1, this will be a half here, and this will be -1, and this will be negative a half here. So this graph, because there's no reflection, is going to be up here. It's going to go down to a half and then go back up. Now normally it would cross the y-axis at 1/2, but because we've shifted pi over 6, it's going to be a little bit over. So it's going to be right here. This is going to be its lowest point here at pi over 6. So that's its lowest point, and then it's just going to go back up like so. And there's that one. Now we're going to go down to this one here. It's going to go no higher than -1/2 right here. And the point where it gets up to -1/2 is going to be in between these two asymptotes here, which is 7 pi over 6. So it's going to go like this. And that would be the graph of this secant function.